Hello, I'm Eric Jesse. This is a reading comprehension with informational text instruction, and this is for the fourth grade. All right, for today's lesson, we're going to go over the collaborative strategic reading comprehension strategies, also known as CSR. Okay, so here's our CSR strategies right here. We'll be going over that for the day. So CSR strategies, the collaborative means working together, and the strategic reading is a plan or strategy that allows you to understand and help you remember what you are reading. Okay, so CSR has four main strategies to help you understand what you are reading. The four are preview, click and clunk, get the gist, and wrap up. Okay, so preview is done. When do you think preview is done?
Before.
Preview is done before the reading. Wrap up is used after the reading, obviously. And clink and clunk and get the gist are used many times actually during the reading. Okay? To help you better understand how to use the CSR strategies, we are using Pioneers on the Oregon Trail to help us model it today. Okay? So we will start with our first one. So that's the before reading. Okay? So a good reader previews a selection before reading it. Previewing it has three steps: scanning the text, brainstorming what you already know about the topic, and predicting what you will learn. All right? So Pioneers on the Oregon Trail is an informational text that has informational text, obviously, that have graphic features such as titles, headings, maps, illustrations, captions, boldface text, italic text, and sidebars. Okay? To preview a selection, you can first scan the text for these features. Okay? So I'll show you how it's done right here. I got it out. I will begin my preview by scanning the first page. So first of all, I see the title Pioneers on the Oregon Trail up top of the page. So we know this obviously is going to be the topic of the selection of reading that we're doing today, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, then I see on the sides, or not on the sides, but there, I see two boldface headings that say The Way West and Packing for the Journey. Okay, then I see a sidebar with italicized text in it. The text is a quote, actually. Below the quote, I see a picture of a covered wagon. You've seen a covered wagon before?
In books.
That's good. So then at the bottom of the page, I see a timeline of the historical events that this text is outlining. Okay, so next on the chart, okay, we got that here. Next on the chart, we have brainstorm. Okay, so we will use the chart and we will brainstorm what you know already. Using what you saw during my scan of the text, you then brainstorm what you will already know about the topic. Okay, so from movies, cowboy movies, I know that pioneers traveled in covered wagons. I also know that pioneers traveled from east to west. Is there any other brainstorming ideas that you maybe have gotten from looking at the text that we were reading today?
Just how they make their own food, and
because they were traveling in the wagons for so long.
Yeah, and how they have to take baths and wash clothes, and it's just different than what we do now.
Okay, so next in the chart we have, back to the chart, we have predict what you will learn. Okay, after you think about what you already know about the topic, you then predict what you are actually learning from the reading. Okay, so predictions are based on clues in the text and what you already know about the topic. When you make a prediction, you then tell what makes you think so. All right, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So based on the title, headings, and the picture of the covered wagon, I am predicting that we will learn about the pioneers' journey west to Oregon in covered wagons, because remember we saw the covered wagons on there. So based on the quote, I also predict that I will learn what the journey was like for the pioneers. All right. So then based on the second heading that we had, back to the thing right here, based on the second heading we had, I will predict that one of the things I will learn is how and what the pioneers actually packed for the whole entire journey. Okay. So is there any other predictions that you think that you can come up with right now that maybe pop in your head?
I predict we might learn about like how they work through like weather, like if there's like bad weather when they're traveling, or any other like struggles that they have, or if
Yeah.
they have health issues, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people got
They
sick
don't
on the
have
way.
doctors or
Okay, awesome. So now next, we'll look back at our chart. Next on our chart, we have the clink and clunk method, which is actually done when?
like throughout multiple times.
Yes, but during the reading.
During
the reading. So when you are reading, you should actively monitor your comprehension by noticing what they're doing to understand. Okay, so notice what you do not understand and then use appropriate fix-up strategies to resolve problems or any confusion or other issues you may be having while reading. Okay, so this process within the CSR is called clink and clunk.
Clink and clunk.
Yep. Okay, so words or concepts whose meanings we understand click. Okay, just like, okay, you maybe have a friend that you click with.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a train rolling down the track. And words or concepts whose meanings we do not understand clunk.
Okay.
Like hitting an obstacle or, okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Click and clunk.
Okay, so then when you use a word meaning as in clunk, you can use a fix-up strategy such as the vocabulary strategy to help you figure it out. Okay, so remember the vocabulary strategy is a strategy for figuring out the meaning of an unfamiliar word by using context and word part clues in different combinations. Okay, so I will show you how to use the first 4 steps of the vocabulary strategy today, and that will help you figure out the word meaning clunk. Okay, so in the first paragraph of what we read earlier, okay, the way west, I was not sure what the word territory meant. All right. So step 1 of the vocabulary strategy is actually to look for context clues around the word vocabulary. Okay, so if you look here, I'm going to read the words, phrases, and surrounding words, I guess, as well, to around territory to see if we have any context clues that we might help us understand what territory means. Okay, so in the 5th sentence, I think I may have found a synonym clue for territory. All right, the phrase miles and miles of beautiful land. So territory might have something to do with land, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so step 2 says to break, step 2 of the vocabulary method that we talked about. Step 2 says to break the word into parts. Okay, obviously territory, there's not any prefix or suffix or any of that in there, right? So we will skip to step 3 actually. Step 3 says to use the context clues I found in step 1 to guess the meaning of the word. Okay, so because of the phrase miles and miles, I think a territory might be a big land.
Mm-hmm.
So step 4 says to try out meaning in the original sentence to see whether or not it makes sense in context. So I'm going to substitute big area of land for the word territory. Okay, so Lewis and Clark explored the big area of land west of the Mississippi. Does that make sense to you? Does that still make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so then territory must mean what?
Big area of land.
Correct. Okay, so we'll write that down so we understand later on that what territory means. We don't have to do it again. Okay, that's why we're doing it during the reading, not after or before, so we can understand it. Okay, so next in our CRS strategies, we have get the gist. All right, so is that during the reading, after the reading? Do you remember?
Is that like, that's like summarize like what's the main point of
Kind
the reading?
of,
Get the
yeah.
gist of it.
Yeah, so that's during the reading.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so good readers can identify the most important ideas in what they are reading. They can shrink the information in a paragraph into a main idea statement that tells the most important topic and main idea of what we're reading. Okay, this is obviously called
Oregon Trail.
Get the gist is what it's called.
Oh.
While reading the paragraph, we will most identify who or what the paragraph is mostly about. Okay?
Okay.
Remember what we've been talking about? Oregon Trail
Yes.
and Lewis and Clark.
And
Okay. So the main who or what in this paragraph is Lewis and Clark. So now we will identify what is most important information about who or what. I think the most important information in this paragraph is about Lewis and Clark and how they explored the territory west of the Mississippi. So they also described it in the maps and journals. Finally, it's best to shrink the information into a good main idea statement of about 10 words or less if possible. So here's my main idea statement for what we were just reading, or get the gist. Okay, so Lewis and Clark were first to explore the territory west of the Mississippi. So see how that's 10 words or less? Okay.
To the point.
So we will now write that down in our notes as
Get the gist.
Get the gist, correct. Okay. So moving on to the last section of our CSR. Let me get to that quick. The last section of the CSR strategies. Okay, so the last section is after the reading, correct? So after the reading, we'll then wrap up. Okay, wrap up has two parts into it, actually. So it is asking and answering questions and reviewing what we have learned. Okay, so when you think and answer questions, you might think about kinds of questions a teacher might ask on a test. Okay, and then I'm going to model by generating questions about what we just read, focusing on the ideas and my main ideas or other.
Get the gist.
Yep. Okay. So I'll begin each question with who, what, where, when, or why, or how. Okay. So I'll make sure the answers to my questions reflect three different types of QAR. Right there, think and search, and author and me. All right. So we have a few questions here. So here's the chart with the questions. We got it on the computer today. Okay, so the first question, who explored the territory west of the Mississippi in the early 1800s?
Lewis and Clark.
Okay, the QAR, what was that? Do you remember?
Right there.
Okay, so the next question we have, what did the pioneers leave behind?
They left behind their personal belongings and comforts of home, special treasures, and family and friends.
So pretty much everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what was the QAR on that?
Think and search.
Yep. Okay, so last question, why do people think people were willing to pack up and head west?
They thought they could get rich.
Yep. Okay, and that QAR is author and me on that one. Okay. So that's kind of the wrap up. That's just you forming your own questions and then answering them what you think the teacher might have on the test. Okay. So this is done just by review, and this is important information that we obviously learned today. Okay. So to review, it helps also to go first go back to the list of the brainstorms and predictions that we made at the beginning of the lesson. And then that way we can make in the preview and confirm or even revise them if we were off on those a little bit. So based on here, let me go back to my brainstorms. Both of my brainstorms and both of my predictions were confirmed actually in the text. I predicted that I would learn what the journey was like for pioneers, specifically about how and what they packed. Okay, that was a big topic in there. And then from the test, I learned that it was a long journey and that the pioneers could pack only the essentials and whatever else they could only fit into their covered wagons. So then I also learned other information. So now I'm going to jot down my review. I learned that people know about the West from who? Lewis and Clark. Okay. Then lastly, after gold was discovered in California in 1848, thousands of pioneers crossed the Oregon Trail in covered wagons in search of a new life. That's why they were so willing to pack up and move on the spot. Okay. So the Oregon Trail was thousands of miles long and took several months to cross. The pioneers could only bring with them what was necessary to survive. Okay. So after going through this, how do you feel about the CSR strategies that we went over today?
Pretty good. Makes sense.
Pretty confident? Okay. Well, I got another reading for you to do, and I'll give you the CSR chart so you can refer back to that while working on it. You'll partner up and we'll get the reading going. Okay. Anything else you have to ask before you get started?
Do I write down? And
Yeah.
we write down as a pair? Like
Well,
my partner?
you should write down your ideas and thoughts and then compare.
Okay.
All right. If there's any questions, let me know. Sound
All right.
good?
Sounds good.
All right. Good luck.